All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something really cool, old mountain remedies. We're going to look at how this kind of traditional wisdom, the stuff passed down for generations, says that some of the most powerful healing can be found right in your kitchen.
So the source material kicks off with this really powerful idea from a speaker named Walt. He says your medicine cabinet should be your kitchen. Think about that for a second. It's this whole philosophy that real healing isn't always at the pharmacy, but in the simple things we grow and have right there in our own homes.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? How do you turn your kitchen into a medicine cabinet? Well, that's what this is all about. First, we're going to unpack the core philosophy behind all these remedies, and then we'll get super practical. I mean, we're talking step-by-step instructions for some really powerful treatments that the source lays out.
All right, so before we jump into making salves and poultices, the sources are like crystal clear on this one point. None of this stuff works without a solid foundation. You gotta have certain principles in place first. They're non-negotiable.
And here they are, what the source calls the 8 laws of health. And you can see it's the stuff you'd expect. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, you get the idea. The source really hammers home that these are absolutely essential. The way it's explained is pretty cool, actually. Think of these 8 laws as your body's basic operating system, like Windows or iOS. All the remedies we're about to talk about, they're just the apps. And if that OS isn't running right, well, none of the apps are going to work correctly either.
Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's get into our first specific remedy. This is where we really get into the nitty-gritty, right? We're going to look at the source's super detailed guide for how to treat some pretty serious wounds.
First up is something called hydrotherapy, and the science behind this is actually fascinating. You see, when you put the wound in warm water for 3 minutes, your blood vessels open up. That's vasodilation. Then you switch to cool water for a minute, and they tighten right back up, vasoconstriction. By doing this over and over, you're basically creating a natural pump. It forces a massive amount of blood flow right to the injury, which brings all the good stuff, the nutrients, to heal it way faster. So, after you've cleaned the wound with that hydrotherapy, the next step is to apply a healing salve. And check out this list of ingredients. It's a combination of some really powerful natural stuff. Each one has a job, right? You've got golden seal to fight infection, pine sap to help with the pain, and you'll see some things you probably have at home, like aloe vera and even just plain old local honey. The source says honey has just incredible healing properties.
Okay, so there's this word that's going to keep coming up, and it's super important. Poultice. What is it? Well, it's pretty much what you see here. It's just a soft, wet glob of stuff, usually plants or flour, that you slap on your body. The whole point is to help with soreness and inflammation, and a big one is to literally draw infection out of a wound.
And if you want an example of how powerful a poultice can be, this is it. The source tells this really dramatic personal story about having to treat his own daughter for a venomous brown recluse spider bite. Yeah, pretty serious stuff. And here's the kicker of the whole story. He's talking to the doctor, and the doctor admits it was a brown recluse bite, but didn't want to tell him because he knew they'd rush to the ER, get it cut out, and she'd have a nasty scar for life. But by using a simple charcoal poultice, the speaker claims it healed completely. No scar, nothing. He argues that's a result you just wouldn't get with conventional treatment.
So you're probably wondering, how do you make one of these? It's actually surprisingly simple. You just mix your dry stuff, activated charcoal, ground flaxseed, some oatmeal, and then you slowly add water till you get a paste. You roll it out, maybe between some plastic wrap, but, and this is a huge tip from the source, if you're putting this on an open wound, you absolutely have to put a wet paper towel down first. Why? Because if you don't, the charcoal can literally get into the new skin and create a permanent tattoo. So don't forget that part.
And it turns out activated charcoal isn't just for spider bites. Not even close. The source lists a ton of different uses for it, both inside and out. You can take it by mouth for stuff like food poisoning or indigestion, or you can use it as a poultice for all kinds of things. Gout, infected cuts, even a dental infection.
Okay, so we've talked about infections. Now let's switch gears to 2 things that, let's be honest, a lot of us deal with: chronic pain and not being able to sleep. The source has some really interesting herbal solutions for both of these. Let's zoom in on insomnia. You can see a few different options here. For really tough cases, the recommendation is a tea made from valerian, skullcap, and hops. And get this, the speaker says it's so effective it always works, and was even used to help people who are dealing with the severe emotional distress right after 9/11. Wow. For less intense issues, you have other options, like taking magnesium or just having a classic calming cup of chamomile tea.
All right, so we've gone through all these really practical physical remedies, right? We've talked about hydrotherapy, poultices, herbal teas, but then the source takes a really interesting turn. It basically says that even if you do all of this perfectly, the whole healing process is still missing one final, absolutely critical piece.
Yeah, there's this one last element that, according to the source, is the foundation for all of it. Without this key ingredient, the herbs, the salves, none of it is going to be truly effective.
And here it is, that final ingredient. It's trust in God. The speaker concludes that faith is the most important part. He presents all these natural remedies as powerful tools, for sure, but he argues that at the end of the day, they only work because you're trusting in a higher power to actually do the healing.
So that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, right? In our modern world of high-tech medicine and scientific breakthroughs, what is the role of this kind of traditional wisdom and faith in healing? It's a really fascinating mix of science, tradition, and belief, and it's definitely something worth mulling over.